Lord, would you just bless our time?
Yes.
Lord, as we look into your word, Lord, as we study, but Lord, it's more importantly, Lord, that you would help us to have the wisdom and the guidance to know how to apply truth to our lives this morning. And Lord, would you give us the courage and the boldness to do what you're calling us to do through that? So, Lord, be with us time now. Bless our conversation. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Back to Creation Code, week 5, day 5. And we're in Genesis, Genesis 1:20. So, day 5, 3 short verses, but a lot to unpack. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created the great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. In the evening and the morning were the fifth day. So interesting enough, some versions actually say swarm. God commanded them to swarm. And man, I was sharing about this. When I first discovered this, I did some research on swarms. I've studied bees, I've studied ants and fish that swarm. It is a phenomenon to watch swarm and watch how they all work and move together. If you've not studied it, it is phenomenal. It really is. And the movements are what they communicate with. And yeah, it's awesome.
By the
And
way, you mentioned bees last week, and there was I went home and there was a uh, National Geographic documentary on bees. And so
awesome.
I watched it. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you learn?
I
Share
mean,
with
I
us.
mean, just the same thing we were talking about,
Yeah.
but just, I mean, it talks a lot about the queen and all
Yeah.
this stuff that goes along with it. Very interesting.
Yeah. So when I studied the bees, and I still want to have some bees on my ranch eventually, I will for sure. Because, and I have a buddy who is so like, matter of fact, I got to help him. Chantel and I put on the suits, and he talks about how the swarm works. And it's so fascinating to watch. It's almost like watching a business grow. And you think that the queen is the leader,
Mhm.
but she's not. She's just another worker like everyone else. She just has a specialized job. It's so amazing. She doesn't tell them what to do. They actually kind of push her around and they all work together as a team. So it's total team effort when it comes to the swarm. And yeah, it's really cool to learn. But we got to see how a whole nother hive was formed in another swarm because a queen bee was raised up, another queen, and then it's just amazing. We got to separate the queen in this particular situation with my buddy who studies these guys and was telling me all about it. And we got to take the queen and mark her with this pin so that you could tell which one was. Because there's some bees that are a little bigger too that it's hard to tell sometimes which is which. And then they have this like royal jelly, they call it, where it, because that's what creates the queen, is they actually start feeding this royal jelly to one of the pods, and then it creates the queen and they want to multiply. It's just, there's so much to it. It's really, really cool stuff. So that's why I'm like really excited to learn and do it hands on someday. But again, I've studied this many times, and the swarm concept, if you study like Amazon, you know, Google, Tesla, all these multi-billion dollar and multi-trillion dollar now companies, you'll find that they swarm at a magnitude level. Churches, it's a swarm. It's working together, all having the same mission and working on things together, and then the same purpose and uniting in that fashion. Last week we talked about the lights and the sun and the moon, and it is, it's all amazing to see how it all flows together. I was sharing how the level of swarm I've never been able to reach is like the 10 millions and the $100 million companies, that I see in the $1 billion companies. And it's I've visited this day many times. I've been able to get, to the million mark in our business, and multiple six-figure businesses I've created over the years. But there's a whole nother level when you get into the 10 and 100 million and $1 billion companies. Like there's just a lot more understanding of organization of swarms and a lot more understanding too of autonomy and allowing your queen bee, if you would, to take a portion of your company and grow it to where then it becomes larger and larger. And yeah, it's a whole nother level of leadership that I'm super fascinated by and excited to get to um, in business. And that's what I was sharing too, that all of this started in business for me first. I saw it for businesses and saw the correlation between $1 billion companies and billionaires and their what they do. It lined up with creation code. And then I started like reverse engineering and applying it towards, oh, my personal life. What would it look like for my personal identity to create it with the Father? So for many years, I taught this only for business. And then I saw the correlation too for personal identity. So that's where we go to now, because I have since then kind of revamped and gone, well, I've helped a lot of CEOs and worked with a lot of CEOs in their business and consulting with them, and their home life is a mess. It's atrocious. And that's what happens with men is we find our identity in our work most times and our value in our identity in work. So then we end up doing that really well. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. And so this is going back to really it starts right in the beginning, week 5, day 5, swarm movement and community, but yet a home in order becomes a family on a mission. And so it's first the home. And I'll never forget, this is what hooked me into putting my roots down here at the Grove with Nathan, Mr. Pastor Boyd here, is because of that time I sat in and you were talking about your routines of your home. And it was right after you guys were talking about dinner too, and eating together and how important that is to come together as a family and your routines. And you didn't call it routines. What did you call it?
Rhythms.
Rhythm. Thank you. Yes, that was it.
Mhm.
That was it. Because I was like, oh, it's exactly what we talk about: cycles and habits. And then you were saying rhythms. I'm like, man, that's so good. So, because I'd never heard that from the pulpit in that way, and so focused on the home first. So I was super grateful and just really still grateful for the correlation and the same heart and mind that it starts in the home. So we read Genesis 1:20-23. Living creatures, of course, and then we got Psalms. We got some scripture focus there, but again, turning it to the home. Whoever is faithful in the small things will be faithful in large things. And I think this is where the church and businessmen get it all mixed up. They start out there first because they really feel satisfied out there. And it's like, well, I'm not too confident in my home because I don't know how to connect with my wife. I don't know how to connect with my kids. And then we just don't get along, or there's always some disruption. The same with me, by the way. Like I definitely have had disruption with my kids and my wife, but I've worked hard, really hard on learning how to connect with my wife first and then my children. I mean, I've made it these last 5 years. It's been my sole focus. Getting back into the business world like this, where it's a service industry. And we did make a business out of it with the relationship stuff, which was pretty cool too. But it is a lot of our heart's work and really, really focused in the last 5 years, working thousands and thousands of hours helping people in relationship and really learning more about it. So, but this is where it's at. The core is connection to your family. So on day 5, he fills the waters and the skies with living things. No one creature swarms. It's never about one. And I think that too it saddens me greatly when I see people that are single. And then the church will confirm, yeah, stay single. Paul was single. I'm like, that's one of my really hard passions. Ah, and sometimes I go overboard with that, but it's real. Like, imagine that. Because again,
That's not a misery loves company type thing, is it?
what's that about Paul? Or
Well, you're married, so you want everybody else have to participate in this stuff that
Well,
you have to do.
no, actually, I think it starts in Genesis when it says to
I
go
was being
forth.
facetious.
Okay, go forth and populate. So I'm passionate about it because I get what you're saying though. But it's like, man, it is an interesting thing about marriage. And so, I believe it's a commandment. And And I believe we were always meant to be married. So we were created that way as one flesh, and I believe we're meant to come back together as one flesh. So, but yeah, Paul is a good one that people like to reference. But why I say that is because it is kind of sometimes when I start talking about this stuff, then there's the single guy who's like, well, I'm single. And I feel like God called me to be single. And I'm like, okay, I bless you in that. But it's so much better being married if it's good, if it's epic. And it can be good. There is a way. So it's not random abundance. Papa's spent 4 days building the environment, time, separation, the fruitfulness, the order. Now that the home is ready, life feels it naturally, which so is appropriate that we talked about even the greenhouse. Because literally, if we allow the chaos of the world in our house to come, when you guys come, because I want to have all you all out pretty soon, you'll see that we have a TV in our living room, but it's covered up by a picture because I don't want it to be the focal point of our home. I want it to be a gathering place for family and friends. Not that I don't watch TV and shows and movies and things, but I try to be purposeful with it. But that, and same thing with media, social media, news. Once in a while, I'll plug into it, but to allow it to just infiltrate my home. And in my previous world and previous marriage and life, when I didn't have an understanding of this stuff, the TV never shut off. And I see that in so many homes. You walk in and it's just noise.
Yeah.
Now it's like, when I go somewhere and there's the TV noise, I'm like, and I'm so distracted by it anyways. Squirrel, I'm all watching it. But it is amazing to me that I had that life before. And so why I say that is because there's a lot of other people's opinions that, and it will control the environment of your home. Like the greenhouse, if you think about that, you can literally be in the Sahara Desert or in the Antarctica and grow fruit, vegetables, any time of the year, by the way. You just control the environment, control the humidity, control the amount of heat that's in there and the amount of sunlight, right? We can manufacture sunlight now. So it's amazing. It's real too, I believe, for our homes. So it's true for you before your influence expands outward. Papa's calling you to fill your home with life. And, for many years, there's that verse about, an elder needs to have a home in order. I think if we really, 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 it's the hard part is what does that mean? And who defines that? Who's the judge and jury of that? That's the hard part, right? I get it. But I think, wow, that's accountability though, too, of like, okay, are we at least doing some things to try to keep our home in order and to create connection and love? Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the one to gauge it, but I'm just saying the word does say it. So your first swarm is your family. The pattern Papa set, water filled first, your home is your water. Papa prepared for life. Movement came from the fruitfulness. What we planted in week 3 and 4, our identity now draws people in. It is interesting when I see someone, this again, and it's so hard to not seem like I'm judging people that are single, but it's just an awareness. I try to preach awareness. Be aware of this. If people don't like you and you can't even attract a woman, you might want to try to work on that if you're still single. Because really what it comes down to is the first person we attract is our wife. And then if you really attract her, then she wants to have kids with you. Now, I know there's some issues where people can't have kids because of physical, but then like she'll want to have kids with you. And then when you have kids and your kids will want to be around dad, right? There's many years the kids didn't want to be around me, and I don't blame them. That guy that I was very religious and judgmental, nailing their windows shut, the girls that I raised in my previous marriage and trying to control. It did not work. And it just pushed them away. So I do believe that, our identity is a big part of it. That's why I even bringing back up week 3 and 4, how important that is to recognize our identity will attract people or push them away. So swarm attracts swarm. A family moving together naturally draws others towards them. So what does this mean for you? You already have the greatest leadership opportunity in your life sitting at your table. Like I said, I'll never forget that when you guys were talking about eating together, the meal, and seeing that with Yeshua, Jesus, and the disciples, and how that was a thing. It still is to this day in Judaism. Before the world needs your influence, your family needs your presence. Voice, rhythm, there's rhythm. Your invitation to move together. A man who fills his home with life will find that life overflows, but it starts here, faithful at home first. So, just a good identity reminder who we are, what we're capable of doing. Then going into 3 core activities, we always come back to this because in anything that's successful, they keep it simple. And my wife has been after me for so many years since we've been training on this, and she's like, this is too complex. So we narrowed it down to 3 basic activities, core activities uh, that really help to gather and connect. Coming all the way back to this every time I try to touch on this because it's such a powerful process. Triggers to triumph, MVP, Epic 30. Recognize what pulls your family apart. And it's interesting how you can prove this with scripture too, right? That God hates division. Like he hates it. He just says it straight up. I hate division. He's all about unity, all about coming together. So, but we all have triggers. We all have patterns, moments, or habits that cause disconnection, anger at the table, silence instead of conversation, retreat instead of presence. I would tell you, even how parenting has like taken a 180-degree change for me after I discovered this process and understanding. Because you're grounded, go to your room. Like, what is that? That's like isolation, and you're like teaching them to, you're teaching them separation. And I'll never forget when my son, he was a teenager and starting to go through stuff and starting to have some rebellion rise up. And instead of even sending him to school, I literally pulled him out of school and he worked with me. And we spent the days together, a couple days together to create that flow back together. Yoke up, right? When you find fault with your brother, yoke up with them. Well, there's no closer thing than yoking in a physical sense. And it was super cool to start doing that with my son and let him know how much I love him through the process. I know you're struggling, so let's connect. And it was more important than even school. It was like, you're not going to school. You've got some things happening where you're not showing up. So I want to connect with you. Let's reconnect. Let's get back in rhythm together and sync. And same with my daughter. You know, we keep our date nights. Uh, my wife and I, but then I keep a date night with my kids too. My son's older now, but occasionally we'll even get together and have a guys' night out. So it's really about connection. And when people get triggered, even myself, when I feel lesser as a father or husband, I don't want to be around my kids. I'm like, you make me feel like a failure right now. So I'm just gonna isolate and get away from you. So it's real. And we got to do the opposite. We got to go towards them. And that's what Father really has shown me, that I can do hard things and I can go towards that situation that I do not feel confident in right now because I feel like a failure as a father. So triggers to triumph. What trigger most often pulls me away from being present with my family? Anybody want to admit something or talk about it? I'm telling you, my insecurity has definitely been, I never had any biological children. And I've had to get over the belief that that was a curse, that I caused it because I was such a promiscuous teenager and womanizer, that God was punishing me. Well, God didn't do that. But again, I thought for sure that's what was happening. So he didn't force me to marry 2 women that had, their tubes tied. And I didn't go looking for it. But again, but the reality is that was definitely it. And it does come up occasionally, but that's why I work so hard on it, because I know that I want to be the best father. I want to be the best husband. And so I stay focused on that, working on it, getting better at that. But it is definitely a trigger that pulls me away from my family. If I disappoint my son and daughter, I have to fight it because I just want to run away and go hide. And I want to push them away because I'm like, yeah, I'm not even your real dad. So like, no wonder you don't like me. And then I'm like, see, I don't deserve kids, I'm not a good father. And it just snowballs, right? And that thought is, and then I'm like, and then I get angry. And then I get angry at them. Like, it's your fault. Like, I want to blame them. So again, being vulnerable, like that's a trigger for me that it can still come up. It's what I realize. I recover a lot faster now. I have the ability to, nope, that's not true. That's a lie. And it's a trigger. And I could have a different story. Because that's what happens. I start playing this story in my head of what a horrible father I am and how I don't even have biological kids. I don't deserve them and blah, blah, blah. And so what about you guys? Anybody else want to talk about stuff we don't like talking about?
Like with our kids, probably the thing, and it took me years to finally learn that love was a verb and not a noun. And
Amen.
and whatever the process was, whatever punishment we chose, or whatever, because it is. I mean, again, we've probably all fell back on saying, well, it's got to be true because the Bible says it. And you look back, and it talks about uh, chastising your children, or
Right.
making sure that you're right. That means they had problems with kids back then.
Imagine
And
that.
they didn't have all the mess that we have to deal with today with the way our world is. But they had problems with their kids. Apparently teenagers were bad back then. They had to beat them with the rod, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it said. But the thing that Loretta and I worked at so hard with ours, no matter what, those kids knew they were loved.
I mean,
And we would bend over backwards,
Yeah.
after the punishment. We would make sure, hey, we're still okay.
Yeah.
You can't do that no more,
yeah.
but we're okay. I still love you. I didn't love what you did, but I love you. And to this minute, I still believe all of my children realize that. That, no matter whether we disagree politically, socially, whatever the situation is, they still know, hey, my daddy still loves me. Period.
That's so good.
There's no doubt about
Yeah.
that. So that was our thing. I mean,
Yeah, for
we
sure.
worked at that hard. We weren't great parents, but I feel like we did a few things right.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
Loretta probably did a pretty good job at that, right?
I again, I can laugh about that, but it's actually true.
It is. I think it's true with all of us.
Yeah.
Our wives just have the ability.
Well, and Loretta had the ability of, one, not only being intelligent, but she was an educator, and she was a good educator,
Yes.
not only as a teacher, but eventually an administrator. And so a lot of her parenting style came from that.
Yeah.
She knew what was expected around the corner with teacher X, teacher Y. She knew that. So things that she would control as mom,
Wow.
recognize, okay, well, they're going to have to deal with this over here,
Yeah.
this over here.
Yeah.
And so she would coach that way. She would teach that way to the kids to try to help them be better students, better kids.
That is good.
Yeah, I'd say I don't necessarily say a trigger, but it was more of like just my nature. I used to be really short tempered.
Yeah.
Still can be, admittedly.
Mhm.
Still can be. It was, I mean, late teens, 20s, like I was probably a bit of a hothead.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, and even Haley said, like, it's much, much better
Wow.
now.
Awesome.
But again, though, adding kids into that equation, it's like what does a kid do? They just don't listen sometimes, right? And I've gotten mad at them before and like totally been like out of bounds, dude, and like just wanted to, like, I'm a terrible dad, like I need to be away. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we're good though, like to your point, Tony, like they know they're loved, like, like look, dude, like I love you, even I screwed up there,
Yes.
Yes.
But
but they want to hang out with me, maybe even a little too much sometimes, which is a great problem to have. But definitely the temper, man. It's something that it's in this book since I've been writing. Let me continue to be slow to anger.
That is super.
Slow to anger, quick to forgive.
Yeah, it's super good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I shared this once a long time ago, but those that you still have, well, you're probably the only one here.
With
still have
littles.
But the thing that I learned from my age now with them is I felt the same way. What a crappy dad. I say mean things. And I go, "God, that's just awful." And I think back now and I think how awful some of the things I said, being on the soccer field or whatever, just, but the fun part is they get older.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't remember that.
True.
And I've gone back and the way I know that is I've asked.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, y'all remember that? I don't remember that, Dad.
That's
What I remember is you were at every game you could be at
Yeah.
and you
Good.
encouraged us, blah, 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 blah. That's what I remember. That's because it again, because you'll remember all of it.
sure.
You'll remember your crap so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They pushed that away because they felt the love part.
Yeah, it is amazing how we do remember all the things we did wrong. I remember even trying to think back to my previous marriage and my 4 kids that I raised there. And there was the oldest son there that I literally could not remember one thing that I did good. Not one. I was felt so riddled with guilt of all the ways. He was older, so we clashed. I was 19 and he was 11 when I started raising him. And he was trying to be the man of the home because his dad had been killed in a car accident. So he like stepped in. He was the oldest kid. And then I come along. And I just remember I couldn't do anything right when I look back. And then I remembered one day, and I remember just losing it. The father just reminded me how he had gone off a cliff in a car on a mountain. He was 16 at the time, 17, I think. And the steering wheel hit his chest, and he had heart murmurs because of it. They had him in the hospital. And mama went home with the other kids, and I stayed in the hospital with him. Laid next to him and I prayed for him all night long. And the next day he woke up and he was healed. The doctor checked him, like, we can't find anything that's wrong with him. And when God showed me that, I was like, oh, I did do something good. And I just lost it because literally I could not remember anything I did right. I was just like, I don't know how to raise kids and I don't have a clue. And I was just like totally guilt ridden. So it is an interesting thing to think that we can't remember the good stuff sometimes.
Well, I thought, y'all that have kids, I think all of us as dads said that exact same thing. I don't know what to do, and they make the statement, well, there's no book, there's no, a guidebook for this, and there is.
Yes.
You've heard pastors say that,
Yes.
well, there is a guidebook. It's right here. It's the Bible. And it's hard to translate some of those things that the Bible's saying of how to do,
The practical.
especially in the
Yeah.
practical,
Yeah.
especially when they're
100%.
staring you in the face, defying your direction. It's hard to, okay, God, give me grace here on this one.
Yes.
I'm fixing to punch this kid out
That's right.
or whatever, and
That's right.
it's hard, but there's great illustrations that are there that if you'll follow them and translate them into your situation, it's at least there. But it
So true.
doesn't make it easy when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Kids are nuts.
Yeah.
In my first marriage, I got back from Vietnam and stuff. My son told me now, he says, you was going through a lot when we were growing up, because you
Yeah.
got you remember Vietnam and you're praying and stuff, still trying to raise us too. He says, one thing I do take out of what you showed me. You showed me how dad should be a father, take care of himself, work and provide for his family.
Mhm.
He said, you showed me that even though someone's going, you're still fighting
Wow.
yourself and what you went through,
Yeah.
you still showed us what to do this here. And then when we got my first wife, I got married to Ann. Ann's first husband was an alcoholic. He'd read her all the time. And I came into the family. The kids didn't know what to do. And Ann looked at me, she says, I've never met nobody like you. You get mad at me, yet you just walk away and then you come back and talk later. You don't hit me or nothing. I'm not used to that.
Wow.
And Kim and Tim and Angie both said, she says, you're our father now, because our father didn't teach us, that didn't help us out at all. We got you as our father, not the biological dad.
Yeah.
It's
That's awesome.
this is the things that you set for us.
Yes. Yes.
So I learned all that after my first marriage to go to Vietnam and stuff. And I said, wait a minute
Sure.
here, I got to come back and do something right. Then I went to God and stuff, and I started doing everything.
That's powerful. Thanks for sharing. It's really good.
I think just the triggers, going back to the triggers, I think for me, I think that I like to do things that I'm good at.
Don't
And,
know.
and,
Yeah.
I like to talk, but I ain't good at that.
and like, parenting is one of those things that I oftentimes feel like I'm not good at that.
Right.
And so I think my tendency can be to be more passive in nature because of that and more withdrawn. Especially like when things are great, like I'm engaged, like I'm in
Sure.
work, but then
Oh,
when
yeah.
things are harder, I'm just like, oh, like just like, let me check my phone, let me coach myself to email and things like that. And so I mean, I recognize that's one of the, things that, pulls apart is just that I mean, it goes back to an insecurity and an identity issue for sure. But I think that's just kind of looking over kind of where I'm at. Like that's one of the weaknesses that I have for sure.
Yeah, I would say that with these three things, the three things are, again, always going back to simple things that we're trying to focus on that will create intimacy and connection in your family is the three C's of intimacy, the three C's of love: confidence, communication, commitment. We always go back to those three things. So if you're wondering, what should I work on here? Well, it's probably a confidence thing. That's why you don't want to work on it. And the only way we get confidence is repetition. Literally is. First time you drove a car, scared to death. If you can remember back. First time you rode a bike, right? It's like, but now you ride a bike or you drive a car and you don't even remember that you put it in drive because it's now subconscious activity. And so then that's where this comes in of these three core activities, making them such a in-ground activity and understanding. Because when you're stuck, it's because you're triggered. It's a trauma response. It's very healthy and beneficial because otherwise we'd be dead of mind debt. You can kill yourself with your mind. It's possible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Yes.
if we didn't have these things to protect ourselves, we would die. So it's very powerful what God created, but then it can also cause us to want to isolate or avoid. And so again, the only way we're going to get confident at is to do it. And then the communication will get better. And then when we communicate better and we're confident, guess what? We'll want to stay committed. And commitment comes as a muscle too. So that's where the rhythm comes in. And that's why we can sum it up. There's so many different ways. I know there are so many ways out there. However, again, I always tell people, because I've been challenged, like people are like, it's not only your way, Carlos. I'm like, this isn't even my way. But the reality is I've done so much work on this stuff and I've tried to simplify it. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like I've made it a life goal to simplify this stuff. We've been doing this for a very, very long time as a family. And Chantel and I going on 15 years, that we've done this together. And then we started sharing it with people 10 years ago. And then last 5 years, we just made it better and better and better. It used to be 2 hours long. Now it's 30 minutes, right? The hour of power, Tony Robbins. It's like now the epic 30. And so it's like, I get it. It does. Time is a thing. But that's where, it's because I have to create, we're all going to have a response to things. That's the triggers. But if I could create something that's beneficial because I've done it so much, that's where Epic 30 comes in. So I'm going to program my brain because I do it every day, every day. I'm talking about gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. I'm saying you're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. So I was sharing with Edward, like when people attack me, and he saw it in real life, like with a client even. This guy called us and I told him the price and he's like, you're nuts. And he starts yelling at me about the price. And I can't believe you're going to lose your business. I'm like, well, it sounds like you might be a good candidate for our donation day, sir. Sorry you feel that way, but I'm just like, it doesn't trigger me to be defensive. I just triggers me to offer a solution and be a blessing to him, right? And gratitude and thank you for your opinion. And I want to bless you by giving you a free donation day. If you're really hard up and can't pay that money for it, we get it. And then I go right to, hey, we're going to take care of we want career guys and, we're going to give them benefits. I try to just let them know why our prices have changed, but I don't get angry or offended. And so my point is, but that came from programming.
Right.
Like that's my response because of that. My wife gets frustrated. I don't have to take it personal. I'm just like, oh, well, sounds like you're really having a rough day. And I can understand why you feel that way, right? Validation.
The key word you said was rewiring. You're rewiring your neurotransmitters.
Yes, that's right. Neural pathways.
I'm the opposite of Nathan in the sense that I was taught to, not that I'm skilled at it, don't get me wrong. I was taught to face my fears. I mean, I was a kid that they threw into the swimming pools. Watch him,
Yeah, swim.
Yeah,
Or-
you better figure it out. Because if you don't, you're just gonna die. And so I was, I mean, I had to, yeah, so I'm like, I dive into the things that I hate, I do the things that I don't wanna do. I'm like Dylan talking about being uncomfortable. I'm like, I can make you very uncomfortable. Dylan, come on, let's go. Come spend a day with me and I will make you uncomfortable. You will regret those words that he was saying a couple weeks ago. I was laughing at him. I was like, come on, man, because I lived it.
Yeah.
Because I did face a lot of hardships and fears, things because of being one of 8 children and having 4 older brothers that were just loving it. Just
Yeah.
you know, so yeah. Yeah.
And the awareness is super important and powerful. If we can truly be aware
That's it.
of the formative years, men, for some reason, men never really, although that's, emotional stuff and girl stuff. Like, I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, you need to be aware of it. Like, things that happen in your formative years is literally what, if you've never disrupted that story, you're just replaying it your whole life of what took place in your childhood or how dad or mom failed you in some way or another, didn't show up to this or that, and it made you feel lesser or whatever. There's so many different ways. Or the abuse that took place or molestation, unfortunately, right? All these things that happen unfortunately, then it's like snowballs and you're reliving it for the rest of your life. That's the story. So that's why Triggers of Triumph is really powerful, because we need to disrupt that with Papa's truth and replace the pattern. Your actions will prove your belief system, even about yourself.